Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this breakout session this morning. My name is Michael Benninga. I'm the Chief Business Officer, and I have the pleasure of being here live in the beautiful city of Madrid. Joining me today will be Reed Kennedy, Vice President of Products at Coffreo. This morning, the discussion will be about the flex worker, or the temporary worker. At Coffreo, our focus is the flex worker, and our mission is to improve the outcomes, not only for the workers, but for the agencies and the companies where they are employed. We do this by offering innovative digital software solutions to the staffing industry. For this discussion today, especially during the trends section, we consider flex workers to be defined as temporary workers, freelancers, and gig workers. We will begin the session with a discussion on current trends led by Reed over the influence on the labor market and how they are affecting flex workers. Then we will hear directly from our survey and insights from the participants of the flex worker survey that Coffreo did in April of 2021. The goal of our survey was to understand flex workers, what is important to them, what is difficult for them, where can they see improvements for the industry and for their future in the flex industry. Our survey results in many ways highlight the changing nature in the structures of the workforce. We hope some of these insights will provide some guidance on where agencies and employers should focus their efforts in the future. Reed, over to you on the state and trends in the flex industry.
Thank you, Michael. Before I get started, I also want to welcome everybody and thank you for taking the time to attend our session. I do want to point to our polling question, which asks, what aspects of the work relationship will be most impacted by technology? Respect, career trajectory, or loyalty and trust? So if you have a moment, please take a few seconds and answer the poll question, and we'll come back and look at the results at the end of the presentation. So what are the current trends in the labor market regarding flex work? As more companies utilize flex workers to better manage expenses, we've seen higher growth in contingent labor relative to their traditional workforce. Since 2015, that number has increased to 15.7% of the overall labor force. According to a survey from Gartner, 32% of companies plan to replace full-time workers with flex workers in order to cut labor costs. McKinsey's report on the future of work in Europe cites a shrinking labor force resulting in more competition and higher cost for labor. This leads to increased usage of flex workers on an as-needed basis, especially for highly skilled workers. A quote from the McKinsey report: "In the current labor market, organizations are finding human capital to be scarcer than financial capital." Another factor is the growth of the gig economy via platforms like Uber and Upwork, which have contributed to this trend and accelerated fundamental changes to the relationship between employer and employee, or in the case of these platforms, I should probably say independent contractor. The COVID crisis has further accelerated this change through a shift to remote work, enabling more on-demand employment. As contingent work continues to expand, it is crucial for HR leaders to understand how to best utilize flex workers to achieve optimal outcomes for not only the business, but also individuals within a blended workforce. How have these trends affected flex workers? The shift to contingent, skills-based employment is connected to the changing needs of employers, but what about the long-term needs of workers? We are seeing increased labor market fragmentation and differences in working conditions between individuals along the skill spectrum. These trends have a greater effect on low-wage workers, in particular, temporary workers who are more likely to experience further job and income instability. Flex workers are also more heavily impacted as they are overrepresented in jobs with more precarious or less adaptable working conditions, as well as lower access to social protection such as insurance and healthcare. At the same time, more and more workers are moving to the flex workforce due to an abundance of jobs, but also benefits like flexibility, control, and variety. As we'll see later, our survey results confirm these trends. So the growth of the tech-enabled, just-in-time, on-demand economy has increased the importance of flex workers for enterprises, but it's also created new challenges for managers. How do you balance current labor needs versus the long-term fundamental needs of workers? How do you update the social contract between employer and employee in a market increasingly focused on temporary as-needed labor? In order to better understand flex workers, we conducted a survey focused on their motivations, incentives, needs, and relationships. Michael, can you share some details?
Thank you, Reed. So the survey was conducted in the spring of 2021 in 5 countries. So Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and Belgium. While the overall findings were similar across all the countries, today's survey will focus entirely on the French survey. The survey was sent out to approximately 50,000 flex workers in France, a random sample. We received 1,600 respondents, and they were split into 32% women and 68% men, which actually correctly reflects the segment in France. The response rate of 3.5% actually exceeded our expectations, knowing that the questionnaire was 50 pages long, and there was a lot of detailed, insightful questions that we asked. So it gives us a great deal of feedback and insight and helps us focus on areas for our future strategy going forward. The workers in this survey were primarily through agencies representing a wide variety of industries and locations throughout France. And you can see on the right-hand side, the number of respondents tended to skew towards older respondents in the percentages, but we checked that the actual answers of the different age groups were actually quite similar, so it did not skew the results of this survey. And on the left-hand side, you can see the education level, where over 65% either have no professional education or a basic professional education certificate. So at the end of this year, we will release a white paper which discusses the full survey in the 5 countries and the analysis of that in a Coffreo 2021 white paper. So let's go into the next slide, Reed, and look at the good quotes. We gave the opportunity to our participants not only to reply in multiple choice, but we gave them quite a bit of opportunity to actually answer in text. In open text, we received over 200 open text answers. So there was a real need to express and share and participate. So we're going to I will share the quotes about why does flex work appeal to you. So we can probably put these into 3 segments: diversity of experience, control, and freedom. So let's look at some of the quotes from the diversity of experience. The diversity of work experiences without the disadvantages of internal team politics. Acquire experience in various fields to improve your CV. So this is on the bottom right-hand side, see it's a springboard for a permanent contract. Many see the advantages of this diversity in flex work as a pathway to permanent employment, which allows them to be exposed to best practices, or maybe not best practices, across a variety of companies to build their skills and CV in order to become more attractive for a permanent position. Quote, again, it's a springboard for a permanent contract. The theme around control is definitely when, they want to know when, where, and for whom to work. Quote, a finite period of work, smooth re-entry into the working world, and no direct attachment to a company. Another quote, not having a routine, avoiding the risk of professional burnout. And the third theme centered around freedom and flexibility to choose your work assignments based on life circumstances, either they were a student, elderly, a parent, or retired, and the possibility of re-entering the work environment. So the quotes here were the possibility to choose the job you want to and to discover new ones. And another quote, for me, it's additional income and the flexibility suits me well. So the lack of long-term commitment, a finite period of work, the lack of internal politics and drama were definitely cited frequently. Reed, can we have a look at some of the quotes why they dislike temporary work?
Sure. So on the negative side of our responses, They tended to focus on the drawbacks associated with the disjointed nature of contingent labor, namely uncertainty, lack of respect and recognition, and limited access to support systems and services such as banking, insurance, and healthcare. What really stood out to me was that many felt stuck and incapable of improving their situations. Some common sentiments were, temps are only good for the lowest jobs. We get paid less for the same work relative to full-time employees. We cannot provide input or give feedback. There are no rewards or incentives to motivate us to do more. There is no recognition of my experience and knowledge. Here you can see a few quotes on the screen. What do you dislike about temporary work? The lack of respect. We are treated poorly compared to full-time. Economic instability and legalized exploitation. The illusion of freedom. These sentiments were echoed by many of our survey respondents and fit into 3 general insights we derived from the data. So let's start with the first insight. Flex workers want respect. It sounds obvious.
Reed, won't you?
Obviously.
Okay, thanks.
Excuse me. Yeah, we have to move forward. It sounds obvious. Obviously, everyone wants to be respected. The problem is the temporary nature of contingent work creates barriers to gaining respect. For our respondents, respect, or the lack thereof, is a constant theme. This lack of respect can manifest in a variety of ways, but our survey indicates receiving work opportunities which are aligned with lifestyle and preferences is at the top of the list of importance. Workers value the control they have over their work with regard to schedule and location, but often receive missions not in line with these preferences. This is a huge part of the value proposition of flex work, and surprisingly outranks increasing compensation in importance to flex workers. Many workers, such as students, parents, and retirees, are drawn to the flexibility of temp work, but receive missions not in line with their needs again. This can be addressed through improved information exchange and enhanced communication of personal preferences. Given its importance to workers, preferences clearly need to be understood and recognized. Improved matching systems could do much to alleviate this problem. Next, we ask, what are the most difficult parts of being a temp worker? When asked this question, not surprisingly, increasing compensation led the list, but again, receiving missions that matched preferences still ranks quite highly. Our survey results indicate the two are related, as increasing compensation is tied to identifying and acknowledging a worker's experience and accumulation of skills. Again, the temporary nature of flex work can often result in a mismatch between a worker's skills and the appropriate assignment. Here's a quote. What I don't like is that my CV is not put forward even though I have a lot of experience. Again, improving information is key. New tools that better document skills are needed to improve job matches for flex workers. Our next question. What can staffing agencies do to improve or enhance your experience as a flex worker? Our survey indicates that workers see room for improvement with regard to the information they receive prior to starting a work assignment. I think this quote really highlights the problem. I dislike the lack of information on missions. Everyone hires temps and nothing is done to make it easier for anyone. There is never a roadmap with the necessary information to be successful. Without sufficient information, workers feel unprepared to successfully complete their missions. Many see this as a sign of disrespect in line with the common sentiment that temporary workers are not treated as professionals. Staffing agencies and employers need to improve onboarding procedures to not only provide adequate information for flex workers, but also other co-workers to better establish a collegial environment within a blended workforce. Workers need better tools to access the right information at the right time in order to succeed. Again, it's obvious, of course, everyone wants to be respected, but it is important to understand the structural barriers that contribute to the lack of respect highlighted by our survey respondents. Michael's going to discuss our next insight, which focuses on providing workers with a path to fulfill their career goals. Michael?
Thank you, Reed. Second insight, flex workers want a career trajectory. And when we asked the question, what could staffing agencies do to improve or enhance your experience as a temporary worker, the number one response was training opportunities and skill enhancement. So that's 61%. So let me quote, "There is no long-term constructive realization of work and therefore constructive realization of self." Philosophical, but well said. Due to the lack of training, you always have to justify yourself. I mean, think of that quote. Due to the lack of training, you have to justify yourself. So flex workers, just like full-time workers, want to improve and grow their skills. Obviously, higher compensation is a key factor, but our respondents cite personal growth as a driving force for being in the flex work. We feel that work is about more than money. We feel that agencies and employers utilizing these flex workers should invest in focus on learning and development in order to attract and therefore retain their talent. We see that the talent want to invest in themselves to improve. The next insight, the next question concerning the career trajectory insight is when we asked, in which areas do you feel improvements can be made in the temporary working experience? And here the number one answer was feedback follow-up after a mission. So let me quote again. "We start from scratch at each mission. There is no feedback on whether the work was suitable. Flex workers want to know how they performed and how they can improve. One could see this as a professional courtesy in this transaction. We understand that the fragmented transactional nature of flex work results in a lack of consistent feedback or review process that we can find in full-time work, and therefore negates this part of the learning process. We feel that establishing feedback as a standard procedure would provide workers as well as agencies and employers valuable information to improve performance and therefore result in better outcomes for all the stakeholders involved." The next question concerning the career trajectory theme was, what is important to you as a temporary worker? And here, the second after receiving missions that match my preferences was improving compensation. Let me quote, "I dislike the lack of salary increases as my seniority grows. The salary is not always in line with the work done." And it's obvious that compensation is a common theme in some of these answers. But what strikes us as important and interesting was the fact that many flex workers feel powerless to improve their pay. Many of our respondents feel they were trapped in low-wage positions with compensation not in line with their skills and experience. This disjointed nature of flex work causes information inefficiencies and a lack of continuity and growth. It is necessary to give flex workers access to tools, as Reed said, that more accurately reflect their true accumulated skills and experiences, not diplomas and degrees, skills and experiences, in order to empower workers so they can increase their compensation. A further question asked around the theme of career trajectory was, what do you dislike about temporary work through an agency compared to full-time direct employment? And here, clearly, the answer was instability and uncertainty. Quote, "I dislike the stress of not knowing. The contingent aspect of flex work creates flexibility, but also instability. And this instability in many flex workers seems to outweigh the positive effects of flexibility as it disrupts family life and financial planning. Possibly improved predictive models can provide more foresight into the future labor needs in order to provide more visibility for workers, improved planning and administration tools, as Reed mentioned, that can better manage the information exchange and engagement to provide workers with more visibility into the future." Reed, let's look at the third insight, relationships matter. I'll let you start that one.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. So Our next insight is also fairly obvious. Of course, relationships matter, but our survey results go against what I see as a common perception in today's digital economy regarding intermediaries like agencies. Flex workers were consistently positive in their feedback regarding staffing agencies. Here's a quote. My agency advisor often fought for me to get an hourly rate that matched my skills and experience. Our survey indicates that flex workers have a strong allegiance to their agencies and feel they add value and serve as an important intermediary. When asked, how do you rate these aspects of your relationship with your agency? Here are some answers. I feel a sense of loyalty or commitment to my primary staffing agency. 69.5% of our respondents responded positively to that. The agency is understanding when I have personal issues or problems. 69.4% responding in the affirmative. I feel a sense of loyalty or commitment from my primary staffing agency. 64.7%. The staffing agency respects and supports me in my career goals. 63.4%. I feel comfortable asking the agency to help me with professional problems. 61.6%. I feel the agency will penalize me when I decline a mission. 65.6% responding in the negative there, meaning that they do not feel the agency will penalize them if they decline a mission. So approximately 2/3 of respondents have a strong sense of loyalty, not only to their agency, but also from their agency. That same percentage of workers feel that their agency understands their needs and supports them in their career goals, even if they sometimes need to decline missions. These days, traditional staffing agencies are viewed as a dying breed by some, destined for extinction. Virtual agencies like Upwork, Fiverr, and Job and Talent are all over the news these days as they continue to grow, but surprise, agencies aren't dead, and relationships, personal relationships, still matter. Our next question also highlights the importance of the agency relationship. Michael?
So here the question was very simple. Over a longer period of time, do you prefer to work with one or multiple agencies? And here we have 53% that say one agency, then multiple. So the quote, the advantage that you know each other and know what you can expect, and in return you get something back, is a quote that highlights why they answered this way. They feel that agencies understand their career goals and personal situations and act as an advocate for them in a situation where they feel they have very little leverage or control. So again, the agent is an advocate where the temporary workers feel they don't have control or leverage. Another interesting data point to take from this is at the bottom. 25% of respondents said they have no preferences. So this highlights both an opportunity but also a weakness. When 25% say they have no preference, well, what's the opportunity? The opportunity is for agencies, through better trust, through better performance, can bring these workers and retain them over a longer period versus avoiding the high turnover. The weakness of that is a cohort of workers see the agency service as a commodity. So that is a weakness in this system. So in either scenario, we believe that agencies need to continually prove their worth and their trust with the temporary workers in order to compete and retain them. On the third question about relationship and trust, I'll give it over to you, Reed.
Sure. So what do workers see as the advantages of working with one agency versus multiple agencies? Our survey respondents indicated that trust is the primary advantage of working with a single agency. Here's a quote. They know exactly what I want and what I don't want, and they often understand my decisions. Workers see agencies as advocates protecting their interest and value the personal relationship. In an increasingly digital world, agencies have a distinct advantage in their legacy position, but must evolve to better serve their clients. Agencies own the relationship with the worker and need to leverage that knowledge to enhance their value to both workers and employers. So again, relationships matter, agencies matter, the service has value, but improvements need to be made in terms of identifying, recognizing, and respecting not only workers' lifestyle preferences, but their skills and experience, as well as their goals. Do they want to remain a flex worker working a specific shift on a specific day due to their family life? Or do they have a goal of becoming a full-time worker? Agencies need to work with workers and move them forward in whatever their personal goals are. So with that, I'll move to the conclusion. Michael?
Thank you, Reed. So what did we look at today? A survey of 1,600 respondents based on a random sampling of 50,000 temporary workers in France gave out 3 themes and 3 clear insights. Workers value respect. They're looking for a career development, career path, and there is value in the relationships with the intermediaries. So what do we say when they are looking for respect? They feel they are disrespected and seen as less than full-time counterparts in some of these transactions. They want their job preferences and experiences to be recognized. This is both important for them, but also difficult for them. So a real opportunity for agencies to do something here. They want more information concerning their missions, to improve themselves and to understand what they need to do. Career path, they would like validation of their work, skills, and experience. I think learning and development should not be limited to full-time workers. Many flex workers want to enhance their skills and knowledge in order to obviously grow their compensation, but also to improve their chances of better jobs. We feel that companies using the flex workers, so not only the intermediaries and the agencies, but the end companies have a role to play here by reshaping corporate policies, hiring policies to take into account skills and experience and not only diploma and university degrees. And they want feedback about their missions as a performance measure, but also how to improve. So this is a common courtesy, the feedback loop. And they dislike the instability. They would any solutions that help more visibility into the future is something that would relieve the source of stress and anxiety that the instability brings to the flex workers. And thirdly, we found this very positive, that relationships matter, people matter, that the intermediaries are doing a good job today. Words like loyalty, respect, they value the trust in this relationship. They see them as agents that represent them and represent their best interests, and they have leverage and control that the intermediaries and the temporary workers feel that they don't have. Secondly, a nurturing, more holistic approach is needed. A view not transactional, based on the mission, but a focus on solutions that engage workers beyond individual missions. Flex workers represent human capital and investment. We've seen with the talent war coming up, even in Europe, an investment should be considered to enhance their value and potential and to increase opportunities even for those without degrees. For example, better documentation of acquired skills or career development programs. Both the agencies, the companies using flex workers, but as well public policy have a role to play here. And last, leveraging technology. Reed, I will let you finish on that.
Sure, thank you, Michael. At Coffreo, we're focused on the worker. We're focused on improving the life of flex workers through technology. We feel technology can assist in connecting the dots between a worker's preferences, experiences, and history to enhance job matching, improve visibility, identify training opportunities, and more. Obviously, we feel agencies and employers need to leverage technology to enhance what they do, to enhance the human touch, to enhance those personal relationships that still matter. Because flex workers aren't going anywhere. If anything, they will continue to grow as a proportion of the overall labor pool as blended workforces become the norm. They need tools to address the lack of continuity inherent in temporary work, which improve the work experience and allow for both career and personal growth. At Coffreo, we look forward to continuing our partnership with the staffing industry to tackle these problems. So again, for us, we feel that the disjointed nature of temporary work, moving from position to position, leads to an issue of, as Michael said, continuity, and we will work to connect the dots to improve outcomes for all stakeholders, for workers, for agencies, as well as the employers that utilize these laborers. With that, I'll close with a couple quotes. Our innovation has been focused on technologies that transform our candidate processes, balancing technology and personal relationships. That comes from Ronstadt. If skills are going to be equivalent to currency, it is necessary to create an infrastructure with trust, provenance, and transparency. That's coming from IBM. So you can see the industry is moving in a direction to embrace technology, which allows for the automation and scalability of tasks that are better done in a digital format, but also enhance that human touch in those relationships. So I want to take a second to first go back to our poll results. Let me just take a quick look in the Swap Card app. So we have a 50-50 draw in terms of what aspects of the work relationship will be most impacted by technology, with 0% for respect and a split between career trajectory and loyalty and trust. So people feel that technology will empower workers to fulfill their career trajectory and enhance loyalty and trust, but not necessarily affect respect. And I think the respect, again, is a key component, and much work can be done to actually provide better information for full-time employees in their interaction with flex workers in order to, as I said earlier, establish a more collegial environment where respect does not have to be earned every individual mission. Michael, anything else?
No, Reed, thank you. I thank everybody for participating. I would like to thank our over 250 customers in France for allowing their the workers and to participate. The European survey will be out, white paper will be out at the end of the year. I've spent quite a bit of time presenting these results to some of the CEOs in several countries, and it is a base of an interesting discussion, how they see it, how they see the tools, if they agree or disagree. But I think one thing's clear is we asked 60, over 2,000 in Europe, 2,500 respondents, and we got some answers. Getting insight from these answers is never a science, so we were happy to get feedback from others, what they feel about our insights, and we're happy to share these results once the white paper is out and have these discussions with leaders in the industry. Thank you, Reed, and goodbye from Madrid.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the conference, Michael.
Thank you.